In the unforgiving realm of biotech, Jennifer Ashcroft, a remarkably stunning 52-year-old, had amassed her fortune. Her enterprise led the charge in brain interface technology, with Jennifer renowned for her incisive mind and unwavering resolve. She navigated life with the assurance of one who invariably achieved her desires, be it in the corporate world or personal life. Ryan Breslin, a 20-year-old with striking, moody features, seemed an improbable partner for the elegant and refined Jennifer. A college dropout with a checkered past, Ryan had meandered through a string of unfulfilling jobs until a fortuitous meeting with Jennifer altered his life's course. Their liaison, though unorthodox, seemingly provided both with what they yearned for. Jennifer found a youthful companion to ward off solitude, while Ryan gained financial stability and a glimpse into a world of opulence hitherto unknown. For almost a year, their understanding thrived in the shadows of Riverton. Yet as summer waned into autumn, a shift in their intricate dynamic would trigger a sequence of events culminating in violence, leaving the community to confront the sinister undertones that had long lurked beneath its immaculate facade. Jennifer Ashcroft's journey to affluence and influence commenced in Boston's middle-class suburbs. Born to a high school chemistry teacher and a librarian, young Jennifer exhibited an early knack for science and an unquenchable thirst for knowledge about the human mind. Her parents, acknowledging her promise, made sacrifices to offer her every educational advantage within their means. At 16, Jennifer's life pivoted dramatically when her science fair project on neurotransmitters captivated a visiting MIT professor. Struck by her prodigious skill, he became her mentor, shepherding her through accelerated learning and into MIT's esteemed neuroscience program. Here, Jennifer's ambition truly soared. In the midst of her graduate pursuits, Jennifer's investigation into neuroplasticity caught the eye of several biotech pioneers. By 25, she had obtained her first patent, and a burgeoning company specializing in brain-computer interfaces thrived under her command. Its stock value surged as technological advancements grabbed headlines. With each triumph, Jennifer's affluence and sway expanded, but so did her notoriety for relentlessness. Ex-colleagues whispered of her aptitude to captivate and manipulate, to pinpoint frailties and exploit them without remorse. Jennifer's personal sphere was characterized by a succession of fleeting marriages, each dissolving as her partners found themselves eclipsed by her genuine ardor. Her profession. Her initial spouse, a fellow scientist she encountered at MIT, endured 3 years before petitioning for divorce, alleging emotional abandonment. The subsequent, a captivating venture capitalist, reached year 5 before Jennifer's mistrust of his fidelity resulted in a bitter separation. Following her third divorce at 48, from a younger art dealer who asserted she had grown obsessively domineering, Jennifer renounced conventional bonds. Instead, she started to pursue the companionship of significantly younger men, enticed by their vivacity and the straightforward essence of purely business-like agreements. This routine suited her, enabling her to sustain dominance while fulfilling her requirements for camaraderie and physical closeness. Yet as Jennifer neared her 50s, an encroaching sense of isolation started to plague her. It was this susceptibility, meticulously concealed beneath her gleaming facade, that would render her vulnerable to the heady appeal of Ryan Breslin and the devastating envy that ensued. Ryan Breslin's formative years presented a stark disparity to Jennifer's. Hailing from a modest town in rural Pennsylvania, Ryan was the youngest of 4 offspring in a family perpetually wavering on the brink of destitution. His father, a long-distance trucker with a proclivity for liquor, was seldom present. His mother, grappling with depression, fought to maintain the family's buoyancy. From adolescence, Ryan learned self-reliance. Bestowed with handsome features and innate allure, he discovered these assets could be wielded to his benefit. By the time he reached high school, Ryan had mastered the skill of coasting with minimal exertion, leveraging his charm to compensate for academic lapses and disciplinary troubles. Despite his unimpressive scholastic record, Ryan's SAT scores were remarkably high, suggesting an intellect he seldom directed towards his studies. Coupled with his basketball acumen, this secured him a scholarship to a small liberal arts college in Philadelphia. Yet the liberties of college life presented irresistible temptations for Ryan. Beyond the vigilant gaze of family and high school educators, he fell in with a crowd that prioritized partying. His grades nosedived, and by the conclusion of his freshman year, Ryan had forfeited his scholarship. Too embarrassed to retreat home, he opted to remain in Philadelphia, oscillating between menial jobs and relying on friends for accommodation. During this directionless phase, Ryan's trajectory crossed with Jennifer's. Employed as a barista in a high-end cafe patronized by corporate executives, Ryan captured Jennifer's attention one drizzly Tuesday morning. She was drawn to his effortless grin and the trace of vulnerability concealed behind his assured manner. For Ryan, Jennifer embodied all he aspired to: refinement, achievement, and the allure of a life distant from his modest roots. Their preliminary flirtation swiftly matured into something deeper. Jennifer, captivated by Ryan's untapped potential and eager to mold him into her perfect consort, presented him with a proposal. She would furnish him with monetary backing and usher him into her realm of opulence and cultivation in return for his exclusive company. Confronted with escalating debts and diminishing opportunities, the offer was too enticing to decline. Capitalizing on the moment, Jennifer extended an invitation for him to accompany her to a gallery inauguration, her demeanor signaling this was more than a casual request. The gallery inauguration signaled Ryan's initiation into Jennifer's sphere. She appeared at his rundown apartment, gifting him a bespoke suit that fit flawlessly. Throughout the soiree, Jennifer deftly steered Ryan, murmuring insights about the artwork and presenting him to her associates as her youthful protege. For Ryan, the night was exhilarating. He effortlessly assumed the part of the captivating, artistic young man, buoyed by the admiring looks and stimulating dialogues with Jennifer's contemporaries. As hours passed, their mutual allure intensified, culminating in an ardent rendezvous at Jennifer's penthouse. In the aftermath, Jennifer detailed her offer. She would furnish Ryan with a substantial monthly stipend, fund his education should he opt to resume college, and expose him to prospects he had only fantasized about. In exchange, she demanded his companionship, discretion, and exclusivity. Ryan, perceiving an opportunity to remake himself and flee his aimless life, consented without delay. The ensuing months were a flurry of activity for Ryan. Jennifer relocated him to the guest residence on her estate, revamped his wardrobe with designer attire, and acquainted him with life's luxuries. She registered him for art appreciation courses, engaged a personal trainer to refine his already notable physique, and schooled him in the subtleties of wine appreciation and gourmet dining. Jennifer derived immense satisfaction from sculpting Ryan, regarding him as both a venture and a treasured asset. She basked in the jealous glimpses they garnered at social functions, proudly flaunting her alluring young escort. For Ryan, the alliance provided both stability and thrill. He immersed himself in his new persona with zeal, eager to validate his worth and sustain the lifestyle he was swiftly embracing. Their intimate connection was fervent and daring, with Jennifer introducing Ryan to encounters he had never envisioned. She tested his limits, perpetually retaining command, a dynamic that permeated other facets of their bond. As the summer season yielded to autumn, Jennifer and Ryan established a cadence of opulent holidays, social gatherings, and cozy nights in. To external observers, they seemed an eccentric yet contented duo. Nevertheless, beneath the facade, tendrils of codependency and fixation were entwining, priming the stage for impending chaos. The equilibrium of Jennifer and Ryan's bond began to waver with the advent of Arya Thornton, a 20-year-old art history scholar at the nearby university. Arya slipped into their lives unassumingly as a part-time guide at the Museum of Modern Art. Ryan first crossed paths with Arya during one of his regular museum trips, a routine fostered by Jennifer to deepen his artistic acumen. Arya was conducting a tour, her fervor for the artworks apparent in her lively portrayals and perceptive analyses. Ryan was captivated by her zeal, so distinct from Jennifer's strategic valuation of art as an emblem of prestige. Post-tour, Ryan approached Arya, engaging her in a dialogue about the exhibit. Their exchange was effortless, interspersed with mutual laughter and an unmistakable sense of rapport. For the first time in months, Ryan felt genuinely acknowledged for his true self, rather than as Jennifer's adjunct. Arya, with her dynamic demeanor and contagious laughter, epitomized all that Jennifer was not. Where Jennifer was refined and reserved, Arya was impulsive and demonstrative. Her youthfulness and vigor resonated with Ryan, evoking memories of the unadulterated connections he had forsaken for his pact with Jennifer. Over subsequent weeks, Ryan found himself frequenting the museum more often, invariably coordinating his visits with Arya's work schedule. Their camaraderie burgeoned swiftly, united by mutual enthusiasms in art, music, and philosophy. Arya welcomed Ryan into her realm of collegiate soirees, independent film viewings, and late-night discourses in round-the-clock eateries. For Ryan, these exchanges with Arya and her companions were invigorating. He rekindled aspects of himself that had been stifled in his alliance with Jennifer, including his own artistic ambitions. Arya inspired him to pursue his fascination with photography, even bestowing upon him a vintage camera she had unearthed at a flea market. As Ryan devoted more hours to Arya, he commenced questioning the essence of his bond with Jennifer. The glaring disparity between the authentic link he shared with Arya and the businesslike character of his pact with Jennifer grew increasingly conspicuous. He caught himself fabricating pretexts to avoid the estate, his mind perpetually wandering to Arya. Little did Ryan know, his evolving conduct and escalating distraction hadn't escaped Jennifer's notice. Her sharp intuition, sharpened by years of corporate navigating, detected a shift in their dynamic. As Ryan withdrew, Jennifer's resolve to retain her grip on him merely strengthened, establishing the groundwork for the dispute that would ultimately culminate in calamity. The initial indicators of discord were understated. Jennifer observed Ryan checking his phone more regularly, his expression illuminating at specific dispatches. He started to linger at the museum more frequently, attributing this to a fresh zeal for modern art. Though Jennifer initially supported this interest, a gnawing doubt started to take hold in her psyche. One evening, as they readied for a philanthropic soiree, Jennifer nonchalantly inquired about Ryan's museum excursion. His reply brimmed with enthusiasm, replete with particulars about a novel exhibition, but it was the reference to Arya, the extraordinarily well-versed docent, that piqued Jennifer's interest. The manner in which Ryan's eyes gleamed as he spoke of her triggered warning signals in Jennifer's mind. Resolute to expose the reality, Jennifer started to surveil Ryan more intently. She installed a GPS tracker on his phone under the pretense of an enhanced security measure and engaged a private detective to tail him during his outings. The accounts she received substantiated her direst apprehensions. Ryan was spending substantial time with a young lady, their bodily communication signifying a palpable attraction. As indications of Ryan's deepening bond with Arya accumulated, Jennifer's envy smoldered. She vacillated between frosty aloofness and clinging despair, her temperaments growing ever more erratic. In one instance, she would lavish Ryan with lavish presents. In the next, she would subject him to indirect aggression and concealed menaces. Jennifer's conduct began to impinge on her vocational life as well. She found herself preoccupied during crucial conferences, snapping at staff for trivial offenses. Her assistant observed an uptick in her liquor intake, frequently discovering vacant wine vessels in her workplace bin. Unable to suppress her misgivings any further, Jennifer accosted Ryan following an exceptionally delayed evening excursion. She insisted on knowing his whereabouts, charging him with violating her confidence. Ryan, taken aback, endeavored to minimize his camaraderie with Arya, asserting that Jennifer was exaggerating. The dispute swiftly intensified, with Jennifer reminding Ryan of all she had accomplished for him and implying that he was indebted to her for his fidelity. This confrontation signified a pivotal moment in their relationship. Ryan, feeling ensnared and embittered by Jennifer's proprietorship, started to retreat more. He grew more protective of his phone, meticulous in avoiding mentions of Arya, and concocted intricate justifications for his absences. Jennifer, fueled by her escalating distrust, redoubled her efforts to dominate Ryan. She insisted on joining him at artistic functions, her territorial demeanor conveying an unmistakable signal to any who neared them. She took him by surprise with unplanned museum visits, her piercing gaze probing for any indication of the youthful guide who had captivated Ryan's interest. As time passed, the emotional rift between Jennifer and Ryan expanded. Their formerly ardent meetings turned perfunctory, underscored by a current of animosity. Jennifer's jealousy metamorphosed into a fixation, eclipsing her thoughts and propelling her to ever more desperate tactics to retain Ryan at her side. Little was she aware that her obsessive affection was estranging Ryan further, propelling them both towards a clash that would bear fatal repercussions. As Jennifer's envy escalated, she launched a deliberate crusade to sustain her grip on Ryan, leveraging the strategic acumen that had established her as a commanding businesswoman. She wielded an array of manipulative strategies intended to keep Ryan reliant on her and secluded from Arya's sway. Jennifer's initial maneuver was to capitalize on Ryan's fiscal reliance. She started to curtail his stipend, referencing fabricated complications with her finances or asserting the need to redirect resources for corporate aims. When Ryan voiced apprehension, she would yield, but not before securing vows of heightened devotion and shared time. Emotional manipulation emerged as Jennifer's chief armament. She alternated between bestowing Ryan with tenderness and subjecting him to extended spans of frosty silence. This capricious conduct left Ryan perpetually unsteady, never certain of his footing. Jennifer also utilized subtler schemes to segregate Ryan from potential support networks. She arranged excursions that conveniently overlapped with Ryan's arrangements with acquaintances. She voiced apprehension about his former companions, insinuating they were negative influences or merely exploiting him for his newly acquired position. Progressively, Ryan's social sphere contracted, leaving Jennifer as his main wellspring of fellowship and affirmation. In instances of perceived menace, Jennifer would remind Ryan of her magnanimity, portraying her domineering conduct as expressions of affection and benevolence. She would recollect how she had extricated him from a life of penury and anonymity, suggesting that without her, he would amount to nothing. These guilt-laden narratives bolstered Ryan's sense of duty and indebtedness to Jennifer. As Ryan persisted in distancing himself, Jennifer's strategies grew more frantic. She commenced feigning health alarms, alleging stress-triggered migraines or blackouts that mysteriously aligned with times Ryan desired solitude. Her act was so persuasive that Ryan frequently abandoned his plans out of authentic worry for her welfare. Through this labyrinth of manipulation, Jennifer strove to forge a reality where Ryan believed he required her, where his self-sufficiency was steadily undermined until remaining with her appeared to be the sole feasible choice. Yet with each controlling move, Jennifer edged Ryan closer to his limit, igniting a bitterness that would soon erupt with catastrophic ramifications. During one of her covert probes into Ryan's history, Jennifer unearthed a secret she believed would grant her ultimate sway. Through her web of private detectives, she discovered that Ryan had been implicated in a vehicular collision during his freshman college year. The incident resulted in grave harm to another student, but Ryan had fled in a frenzy. The case had stagnated due to insufficient evidence, yet Jennifer now possessed the missing fragments. Equipped with this incendiary knowledge, Jennifer meticulously strategized her tactic. She awaited an instant when Ryan was particularly defenseless, following a fiery dispute about his escalating detachments. As Ryan moved to depart, Jennifer casually referenced the accident. His complexion paled as he slowly rotated to face her. Jennifer detailed the particulars with icy exactitude, presenting police records. She clarified that she held ample proof to resurrect the case and incriminate Ryan. The implicit menace loomed dense in the atmosphere. If Ryan defied her desires, she would surrender the data to law enforcement. The disclosure devastated Ryan. The accident had been the impetus for his collegiate decline, the remorse gnawing at him for years. He had persuaded himself that by abandoning his former existence, he could outrun his past. Now that delusion was brutally torn away. Jennifer exploited her leverage, offering Ryan an ultimatum. He could rededicate himself to their bond, sever all connections with Arya, and adhere to Jennifer's dictates explicitly, or she would divulge his secret, demolishing his life and potentially consigning him to incarceration. Cornered and desperate, Ryan initially capitulated to Jennifer's mandates. He ceased museum visits, disregarded Arya's increasingly anxious communications, and transformed into a virtual captive within Jennifer's opulent confines. Jennifer reveled in her triumph, convinced she had ultimately guaranteed Ryan's steadfast allegiance. Nonetheless, the strain of the extortion soon commenced to exact its toll on them both. Ryan grew reticent and despondent, his once radiant persona dimmed by the incessant anxiety of living under duress. He performed the rituals of their relationship, but the allure that had initially captivated Jennifer was snuffed out. Jennifer, in turn, discovered that her triumph brought an emptiness. The ardent, defiant young man she had grown fond of was supplanted by a compliant husk. She wavered between remorse for her deeds and exasperation at Ryan's apathy. As time wore on, the household tension escalated to intolerable levels. Ryan's animosity smoldered just beneath the surface, while Jennifer's suspicion burgeoned. She grew convinced that Ryan was conspiring against her, seeking to nullify her advantage. The circumstance was unsustainable, a powder keg awaiting a spark that would arrive in the guise of a fortuitous meeting, propelling Ryan to his boundaries and initiating the ultimate fatal clash between him and Jennifer. The impetus for the final showdown transpired on a brisk autumn evening. Jennifer had compelled Ryan to attend a gallery inauguration, flaunting him before her associates like a trophy. As they navigated the gathering, Ryan's gaze met a familiar visage across the chamber. It was Arya, radiant in a vintage gown, her presence a jarring reminder of the liberty and authentic bond he had forsaken. Before Jennifer could respond, Ryan muttered an excuse and hastily exited the gallery. He found himself roaming the avenues, his thoughts whirling. The chance encounter with Arya had roused something within him, a ferocious yearning for emancipation, a recollection of the individual he once was and could become again. When Ryan ultimately returned to the estate in the small hours of the morning, he encountered Jennifer awaiting him, her countenance a facade of icy wrath. The ensuing quarrel was unlike any preceding it. Ryan, emboldened by his epiphany and no longer acquiescent to her dominion, confronted Jennifer about her manipulation and extortion. Jennifer, perceiving her hold on Ryan slipping, deployed her ultimate gambit. She reminded him of the evidence in her possession, threatening not only to disclose his history, but to employ her sway to demolish any prospective future. She depicted a vivid tableau of the devastation awaiting him should he dare to abandon her. Yet rather than intimidating Ryan, her menaces merely bolstered his determination. In a moment of lucidity, he comprehended that no future with Jennifer, irrespective of its opulence, was worth the cost of his spirit. With a serenity masking his inner chaos, Ryan informed Jennifer of his departure, consequences notwithstanding. Jennifer, confronted with the reality of losing Ryan despite her utmost endeavors, lost control. What transpired next would stun the community and forever alter both their lives. As Ryan moved to exit, Jennifer's poise disintegrated entirely. With a primordial shriek of fury and despair, she launched herself at him, her immaculate nails gashing his visage. Ryan, caught unawares by the abrupt brutality, staggered backward, toppling an antique vase that fragmented on the marble floor. The resonance of splintering porcelain seemed to drive Jennifer deeper into hysteria. She seized a weighty crystal decanter from the bar trolley and swung it at Ryan's head. He evaded it, the decanter missing him by a hair's breadth and crashing against the wall, dousing them in glass shards and costly scotch. Ryan, grasping the severity of the circumstance, attempted to restrain Jennifer, imploring her to pacify. But Jennifer was beyond logic. She lashed out, shrieking incoherently about treachery and ingratitude. Amidst the scuffle, they careened into Jennifer's cherished art compilation, canvases collapsing around them. As they wrestled, Jennifer's grasp closed around a letter opener on her desk, an ominous, ornate instrument more akin to a weapon than an office utensil. She thrust it towards Ryan's torso. He managed to deflect the assault, but the blade carved deeply into his arm, unleashing a spray of blood. The vision of blood seemed to briefly jolt Jennifer back to reality. She recoiled, the letter opener slipping from her abruptly limp fingers. Ryan, gripping his wounded arm, spied a chance to flee and bolted for the exit. But Jennifer, in a final frantic act, seized his injured arm, tugging him back with unexpected force. Ryan, driven by pure instinct and adrenaline, pushed her away vigorously. Jennifer lurched backward, her heel snagging on the rug. Time appeared to decelerate as she toppled, her head colliding with the edge of the substantial marble hearth with a nauseating thud. Jennifer collapsed onto the floor, a pool of blood swiftly expanding beneath her hair. Ryan stood paralyzed, his mind grappling to absorb what had just transpired. The chamber, so lately a scene of tumult, was suddenly horribly still. With quivering hands, Ryan searched for a pulse, detecting none. The realization struck him like a tangible blow. Jennifer was deceased, and his life as he knew it was concluded. In a stupor, he stumbled from the residence into the crisp night air, abandoning a scene of devastation that would soon become the focus of a sensational inquiry. The grisly finding was made by Jennifer's housekeeper, Elodia Ramirez, early the following day. Her shrieks upon discovering her employer's lifeless form shattered the peaceful morning quietude of Riverton, summoning neighbors and triggering a flurry of calls to emergency services. Detective Lydia Blackwell, a seasoned member of the Riverton Police Department's homicide unit, arrived at the scene within the hour. The lavish living room, now a spectacle of brutality, narrated a tale of ferocious conflict. Shattered glass crunched beneath her feet as she conducted her preliminary assessment, observing the upturned furnishings, fragmented artifacts, and the streaks of blood guiding to Jennifer's remains by the fireplace. As crime scene investigators inundated the house, Detective Blackwell commenced reconstructing the events of the preceding night. Surveillance footage depicted Ryan escaping the residence in the wee hours, his shirt marred by blood. His hasty vanishing cast him as the chief suspect, prompting an all-points bulletin for his apprehension. As the probe advanced, a more intricate image surfaced. Interrogations with personnel and associates disclosed the stormy essence of Jennifer and Ryan's bond. Numerous witnesses recounted regular disputes and voiced unease about Jennifer's increasingly unpredictable conduct. A pivotal discovery occurred when investigators unearthed Jennifer's concealed dossiers, chronicling her inquiry into Ryan's history. The proof of extortion introduced a fresh aspect to the case, implying that Ryan may have acted out of desperation rather than premeditated slaughter. Meanwhile, Ryan stayed on the lam, with sightings documented statewide, yet he evaded seizure. The investigation's turning point emerged from an unanticipated quarter. Aria Thornton, tormented by remorse over her part in the happenings, presented vital intelligence. She furnished detectives with text communications and voicemails from Ryan, documenting Jennifer's intensifying actions and his escalating dread. Aria's account portrayed Ryan as a casualty of manipulation and maltreatment, ensnared in a gilded prison by Jennifer's affluence and menaces. This novel outlook spurred Detective Blackwell to delve further into Jennifer's past, exposing a sequence of compulsive behavior and accusations of harassment from her former liaisons. Forensic evidence from the crime scene started to validate Ryan's account of events. The trajectory of Jennifer's lethal wound aligned with an accidental tumble, and protective injuries on her hands indicated she had been the assailant in the ultimate clash. Perhaps the most incriminating evidence stemmed from Jennifer's own digital trail. A meticulous inspection of her computers unveiled the full scope of her surveillance of Ryan, encompassing GPS tracking data and footage from concealed cameras within their residence. The degree of intrusion and dominion startled even the most veteran investigators. As the genuine character of Jennifer and Ryan's connection emerged, public sentiment commenced shifting. The portrayal of the avaricious young paramour yielded to a more intricate comprehension of a youth ensnared in an abusive scenario. Initially indicted for second-degree murder, Ryan's case took an unforeseen turn as evidence of Jennifer's manipulation and abuse accumulated. The district attorney's office encountered escalating pressure to reassess the accusations. Following protracted discussions and bargaining with Ryan's legal counsel, the charges were lessened to manslaughter. After weeks of testimony and 3 days of consideration, the jury delivered their decision. Ryan was pronounced culpable of involuntary manslaughter, a verdict that acknowledged his part in Jennifer's demise, while also recognizing the mitigating factors that culminated in the deadly encounter. The judge, considering Ryan's absence of prior convictions and the extraordinary conditions of the case, handed down a sentence of 5 years in prison with the prospect of parole after 3. The ruling evoked varied responses, some deeming it overly indulgent, while others contended that Ryan had already endured sufficient hardship.